Have you heard the term shadow work before? Are you curious of what it is, what it is not, and why you need it to live a more bold life? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today on Boldly Driven Conversations with Bree. We're going to be talking about shadow work and how it gives us, how it is essential for us to have a bold life. Join me. Okay, so shadow work, it's like kind of a buzzword. When we do shadow work, it's not therapy. Not all shadow work is inner work, but not all inner work is shadow work. Shadow work is very specific to work that we do within ourselves so that we can grow and evolve and live a more bold life. So shadow work is very specific work that brings light to those areas that we have consciously and unconsciously hidden from ourself and others. So they are the parts of ourselves often that we don't like. They are often parts about ourselves we're not even aware are there that drive what we do in our life, how we live our life, how we think about things in our life, and why we have certain perspective on different things in our life. So shadow work is where we shine the light on those darkest corners of our psyche, so that we can understand ourselves and accept ourselves more fully. Because when we do this allows us to live more boldly. This allows us to live in freedom, live more authentically, and live in a way where we are able to prioritize ourselves and our needs first before we put others ahead of ourselves in unhealthy ways. And this also allows us to not always need approval from other people when we shine the light on our shadows, so that we aren't needing that external approval all the time from other people. So how this helps us have a more bold life is when we do shadow work, and it is an actual do, it is something that we have to be intentional about. And we have to be aware that it's going to bring up some stuff. Okay. We don't go into shadow work lightly. I do shadow work with my clients, my coaching clients. And I have been trained to be able to draw out the shadows and help my clients address their shadows so that they can do the work, so that they can find the freedom and integrate those shadows into their personality in a healthy way. Even the bad stuff, the stuff we don't want to touch, the stuff that we want to ignore. So, okay. So when we are doing shadow work, how it helps us to live more boldly and more authentically and more intentionally in our life is with it increases our self-awareness. And when we have increased self-awareness, this allows us to make more conscious choices and to live more authentically. Because when we're aware of what's going on up here and in here and in here, physically in our body, we are able to make more conscious decisions, more intentional choices, for our good. And we're able to prioritize ourselves, and we're able to discern better whether or not when someone gives us criticism or someone gives us flattery, what it is, if it's really a compliment or if it's a flattery or if it's flattery. I have talked about that before. There is a difference. We're able to have more discernment in that. And also, again, when there is criticism, we're able to have more discernment there as well. And this allows us to regulate ourselves a little bit better in how we receive external validation or invalidation, so our nervous systems can remain more even keel rather than being triggered from maybe past traumas that we've had in our life. So when we have more self-awareness of ourselves and the shadows that are in our life, this helps us actually also reduce our fear and reduce self-doubt so that we can have more internal self-worth and value. This helps us confront and then dismantle the limiting beliefs we have in our life. And it's a very long process. It can be a very long process. On certain limiting beliefs are stronger than others, but this helps us dismantle them so that we can confront it in a way that allows us to not live our lives in fear and live more courageously, more authentically, and face those challenges to have greater confidence. And when we have greater confidence in ourselves and we trust ourselves more, we learn to trust ourselves more, and we stop having all these limiting beliefs of what we can't do, we start doing the things we can do. And this allows us then to have better connections, stronger, deeper connections, overall better relationships with ourselves and others. When we have more self-awareness and we are freer from self-doubt and fear, our relationships improve because we can then see our patterns of behavior in our relationships. We're able to have more of that bird's eye view of our relationships, whether it's intimate partnerships, if it's familial relationships, professional relationships, and just platonic friendly relationships. We're able to see the patterns of behavior that we have a little bit more, and we have those aha moments of, oh, that's why I'm attached to this person, or that's why I allow this thing to happen in our relationship that I probably shouldn't allow. This gives us more authentic connections. This also helps us weed out the connections and attachments that aren't healthy for us, that aren't serving our good, that are actually hurting us. And we're able to then create the boundaries that are needed in order for us to be in a healthier place and have healthier relationships in general. And all of this also helps us build more resilience in our life. We have greater resilience when we have more awareness, when we have less fear and self-doubt, and when we have improved relationships. Our resiliency in life when we face challenges is much greater. We're able to handle the challenges and setbacks that are going to come because we're human, with more ease. It's not every challenge we meet becomes life altering, and sets us back and we have to recover from and becomes a traumatic event, a little T trauma in our life. This allows us to bounce back from adversity to continue forward towards our goals, in our journey, towards the destination that we really want to be at. And all of this, all together, all of this helps us, enhance our creativity. So when we are doing shadow work, we're living more boldly. We are having better relationships. We are bouncing back more easily from trials that have happened in our life. And bouncing back doesn't mean quickly necessarily as much as it means wholly or fully. It might take longer, but we're able to bounce back from a setback in a timely way so that we can continue moving forward. This enhances our creativity as well. Oftentimes our shadows, those shadows in the deepest, darkest places that we have, when we do shadow work, what happens is there's an unraveling that happens. And this unraveling brings out the suppressed creativity that the shadows are hiding. And this gives us really unique perspectives, oftentimes in our life, in problem solving. If you consider yourself a creative person, in our arts, in our music, in our words, all the different ways that we creatively express ourselves, we then have a new, refreshed, and unique perspective that we can then share with the world and allow the world to be inspired by our words and our actions and our deeds and the art and creativity, the things that we're doing and making and how we express ourselves. And this unleashes that creativity in a way where innovation comes to play and we actually help the world in really cool ways. That maybe we didn't expect. And for those maybe who don't consider themselves creatives, shadow work will bring out creativity in you you had no idea that you had, because all your creativity is being suppressed by these shadows and limiting beliefs about ourselves. Okay. So that's all the why we need to do it, so that we can live more boldly and authentically and intentionally, so that we can do and have more internal validation rather than relying on external validation. But practically, how do we do this? Like, how do we do the shadow work? There's different levels of shadow work, and there's different levels of what it means to do the work. So practically, the best thing we can do, each one of us, is journaling. And for my people who aren't writers, I get it. It's hard. This is why I created several different journals I call them guided experiences more than journals, because it really is an experience, each one of them, to help us. And there are prompts that are designed to help you do the shadow work. The questions, the prompts, the exercises that are in this. There's also, like where you can draw pictures in these different journals. If you're interested in one of those journals, you can find it. I will put the link. You can find it on my website, briannalgeorge.com, under links, and go to Amazon. They are found on Amazon under my name, Brianna L. George. There's a grief journal, an anger journal, burnout journal, anxiety journal, self-care journal, and all of them you can get in paperback and hardback. And they're really great tools, especially for people who maybe feel like they're journalers or writers. These are awesome tools to help us do the shadow work, to get us started. And this is work we can do on our own. We can do it by ourselves at our own pace. So that is the first way. And why journaling helps is that we're able to see a theme and pattern oftentimes when we're writing. And it's great because then we can go back and we can read it. We can see our growth pattern. And it's a place where we can just put our thoughts. That unconscious stream of thought sometimes is really helpful to go back and read. And then we can see those patterns that we have. And it just helps us document our growth and helps us uncover those shadows, the things that we really can't see from the perspective of actually living it sometimes. So sometimes we have to be able to go back and have a different perspective and view in order to see the patterns and to see the shadows and what the shadows are covering. The next practical thing we can do to start shadow work is doing meditative prayer or meditation. This is where we just sit and we listen to ourselves. We allow unconscious thought, like we're not trying to think of anything. I hate to use clear your mind. I know a lot of people use that. It's not necessarily the clearing of the mind. It's just not giving judgment to thoughts that come by. Okay. You're going to have thoughts. We're human. It's really hard to get to that nothing place, especially for women. It's really hard to get to that nothing place where we're not thinking and the ticker tape is not going. But what this allows us to do is it allows us to get connected to our deeper self, to our spirit, to our soul, in a way that gives us more awareness of our feelings and more awareness of our emotions. If you struggle with being able to name your own emotions and understand your emotions and know that there are emotions that you're feeling and you can't name them, you don't know how to describe them, this is a really great tool, practical tool for us to be able to start recognizing, becoming aware. We become more aware of the sensations in our body when we're having certain emotions or feelings. We're able to connect those things, and meditation is a start to that, because when we have those feelings and we have those emotions and we have those sensations in our body, we're able then to connect that to some of the shadows that are lurking in different places, and those limiting beliefs that we have. Okay. And then I think another really great practical thing we can do to do some shadow work is analyze our dreams. If you are someone who remembers your dreams, oftentimes, jotting them down, at least the theme of the dream, or if something really stands out in your dream, jotting those things down quickly, bullet points, can be super helpful to then be able to go back and analyze it, because you might again see reoccurring symbols or reoccurring themes in your dream. And then that can be pointers to areas of your life where there might be some shadow work that needs to happen, why we have certain limiting beliefs, the root of some of our fears and insecurities, and emotions, like why those emotions might be coming up, especially if those emotions that we have, like big emotions about certain things, we may not understand why we're having these really big emotions around certain times of the year, days, celebrations, certain things, human things that happen in our life. And this can point to the shadow so that we're able to uncover it and then move on and do some of that inner work that we need to do. Therapy. Therapy is an amazing tool for uncovering shadow work, uncovering the shadows. Therapists are very specifically trained in order to pull some of these things out. And coaching too. Coaches do a lot of shadow work. Good coaches do a lot of shadow work as they are coaching you in the external. Oftentimes, resistance to externals will point to some inner work that needs to be done and some shadow work that needs to be done. And if your coach is trained in being able to guide you through that in safe ways and healthy ways, that is a great coach, because they're going to be able to help you move further along towards your goals in those external things that we're trying to achieve. That's the difference between therapy and coaching. Oftentimes we don't talk about this a lot of time. Therapy is just the inner work. And that doesn't necessarily mean shadow work. That means inner work, getting to some of the roots of why we do things. But the shadows get us to why we're having those limiting beliefs, why the root is even there. So make sure that your coach is trained in being able to do some of this shadow work, to help you work through it and give you tools and resources to be able to deal with those things. And really, they should be pointing you back to a therapist when some of those things get uncovered, because they're specially trained of how to deal with some of those things. Okay. And then I think something that we need to realize is that shadow work is designed to uncover things about ourselves so that we can integrate them into our personality. We're not just going to uncover these things, these shadows, expose these things, and just ignore them. It's so we can integrate them into our personality. We can integrate them into our human experience. Because so often the shadows are hiding amazing aspects of ourselves so that we can move forth boldly, so that we can live a life that is authentic, so we can live a life where we are thriving and feeling fulfilled. And a big part of shadow work that we have to understand is it is a journey. It's a lifelong journey. This is something you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. And we can just ignore it and not do it at all and not live a fulfilling life, or we can be open to the fact that we are going to be constantly discovering things about ourselves, things we love and things we don't like about ourselves, and that the journey is just the human experience. This is why we're here, to have this journey. It's not about the destination. It's not about arriving somewhere unscathed and perfect. We can let go of perfectionism when we realize we are on this journey, and everybody has shadow work they need to do. Everybody. You, me, everybody. And so if we can realize that this life that we're living is about the actual living. It's about the actual experience, the human experience, and what that living, that purpose, living from our values, that is the whole point. It's about right here and now. And part of the right here and now, to enjoy it, is to do the shadow work so that you can enjoy it. So if you have more questions about shadow work, I'd love to talk to you about it. I do have some questions for you. Bold challenge today. Guess what the bold challenge is? It's to do some shadow work. Imagine that. So I have 3 questions for you to ask yourself today, this is part of shadow work. And really, really go deep with it. Really ask yourself, like, take some time for yourself, set apart from everybody, all the things that we need to do. It's busy. It's the holidays. We're all busy, right? Really take some time for yourself. Ask yourself these 3 questions and know that you're doing shadow work when you find those answers. And when you get those answers, see what you can integrate into your life. See what else it uncovers. And if you like the feeling of what it is, of what's happening, and can see the value of asking yourself some of these questions, and you'd like to do some more shadow work, and you'd like to integrate that into some coaching, please contact me. I'd love to do some more shadow work with you. Here's your 3 questions. Okay. The first question is, what are my biggest insecurities? And why do I feel insecure about these things? Like, what is it about these things that makes me feel insecure, and why? What can I point to for my reasoning of why I feel insecure? And if you can't answer that, DM me. Let's walk through it. There's some other questions we can ask to get a little deeper, to bring back some of those cobwebs, to look around the deep, dark corners. The second question is do I have unhealthy relationship patterns? And here's the thing, you do. There's the answer. You do have unhealthy relationship patterns. We all do. And I think the follow-up question to that is, where did I learn this pattern? Where did I learn this pattern? And that can bring up some other questions for us. And the third question is how do I practice self-compassion when I make a mistake? How do I practice giving grace to myself? How am I actually doing it? Like, what are the ways in which I give compassion to myself when I make a mistake? When I do something that I shouldn't have done? How am I being compassionate to myself? And if we're not, if we can't think of ways, we need to talk to someone and figure out why we're not giving compassion to ourselves. Probably points back to some of our insecurities and points back to some of our unhealthy relationship patterns. So big work there. There's some really big work you can do to get you started. You write them down in a journal. Talk to someone about them. I would love to talk to you about them. You can set up a call with me, or you can DM me on any of my socials, wherever you're seeing this video. And let's talk. Let's work. Let's do some shadow work. 2025 is coming. It's time to liberate yourselves. It's time to uncover things that maybe we have kept hidden, so that we can enjoy 2025 and make 2025 an amazing year. All right. Have a great day.